I listened to that introduction and I sound like one really old bag. I've been around the block for a long time, and when this opportunity came up, I thought about all the things I've learned in my life that I would like to share with my children. Sometimes I even share with my friends. And the idea of sharing tactics came to mind. When I was young, when I met a challenging situation, I would go in like often people called me a water buffalo, charging in, jumping to all kinds of conclusions about what was happening, and trying to take a leadership role in a challenging situation long before I understood what was actually taking place. So what I'm going to share with you today is some tactics and some strategies that I learned, and I'm going to share with you some scenarios where those tactics came in very, very handy. My life, like many of yours, has been filled with all kinds of road bumps, big holes, landmines, whatever you want to call them. Am I correct in assuming that your life has also been full of challenges, or is that just something I have to wear? How many of you have met challenges that you felt afterwards that you messed up big time? How many of you have seen other people go charging into challenges and make it worse? So one of the things that I learned is no matter how we learn a lesson in life, we always pay the tuition. Sometimes it's emotional, sometimes it's financial. I've been teaching here at Mount Royal for 25 years, an amazing 25 years. I'm so glad that some of you in this room have been in a classroom with me. I've always said to my students, you can learn it in the classroom or you can learn it in the trench. Either way, you will pay the tuition. The tactics I'm going to share with you have 4 stages. First, we have to assess the situation. No matter what challenging, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, we need to figure out what's going on. Sometimes that means we have to shut up and listen. That's hard for me. Is that hard for anybody else? Once we figure out and assess the situation, we can strategize on what to do. What's our role? We always have 2 choices. We can lead or we can support. Or sometimes your lead or your support looks like you vacating and leaving the situation. Once we figure out what to do, we can implement. And then when it's all said and done and there's some sense of calm, we can sit back and look at what did we do right, what did we do wrong, what are the lessons that we can learn. So I actually make my living helping people work through this process, no matter what it is I'm doing. Whether it's a challenging situation or a celebration, because that can be challenging as well. So I'm going to share with you some strategies or some scenarios that really tested my resiliency and abilities to handle challenging situations. My life has been in this circle, and I suspect yours might be too. My family has given me lots of challenges. I'm a mother of 2, a stepmother of 2. I have 5 granddaughters. My children were teenagers just like their mother, which meant that there was nothing but challenges. I had the opportunity to let that stress me, but I believed that God gave me children so I could mess with their minds. And I had an amazing time when they were teenagers. Work situations, we've all had work challenges, whether it be bosses, whether it be economic, whether it be coworkers, whatever. I presume all of you have had work situations. Financial. A lot of the financial challenges I've met in my life have resulted from stupid decisions that I made and had to own, and then figure out how to get myself out of it. I've had challenges with friends. Some friends I've had to walk away from. Some friends make me tell the truth. Some friends, some of you are here today, have been amazing and a great gift, but not without challenges. Health. When I'm stressed, I turn to food. That's been a challenge. Health is a challenge as we age. As I stand here today, my ankle hurts, and I know what's ahead in my aging years. Community. I live and work in the community of High River, and I'll share with you some of the challenge that we have experienced there. But community is always a challenge because you're dealing with volunteers and you're dealing with neighbors, and for some reason we don't all see the world the same way. I just don't get it. One of the hardest challenges I faced was 22 years ago at 3 a.m., and you'll hear my voice crack because it's like it happened yesterday. The phone rang. A friend of mine who wasn't at that time a really close friend, she said, "My son has just died from an asthma attack. Can you come?" In the few minutes that I packed up my clothing, not knowing how long I would be there, threw some food in a bag, not knowing what to take, not knowing what role I could play. I'm trying to assess the situation before I leave my house. This was a new Canadian family with no support system in this country. When I arrived, it was a different scenario than I ever expected because we don't all grieve the same way. We don't all handle that radical stress. They were so stressed they couldn't make a single decision. I had to assess and then sort out my role. Would I lead? Would I support? I was with them for 3 days and things got very, very challenging over that time. Sometimes I washed the dishes. Sometimes I was on the phone with the medical examiner's office. Sometimes I was there with the Catholic priest as we planned the funeral. My relationship with that family over 22 years has gotten stronger and stronger. Their other children crashed and burned. The parents crashed and burned over and over and over again. Sometimes when I'm frustrated or stressed, I think, why me? Why am I helping carry this load? And I recently asked my friend, why did she make the call to me? She said, because we knew you could handle it. Another situation happened right here on this campus. I make my living training, teaching, coaching, telling other people what to do. How good can it get? It's 2007. I'm here at an instructors meeting at Mount Royal, and they announced that they had received confirmation that their application to shift from a college to a university was now a reality. I was so ecstatic. I'm going to be able to teach at a university. How cool can that be? This is a dream come true. Until the cold, hard reality, as I'm assessing the scenario, hit me. I'm a SAIT grad in engineering design. I don't have any university education. You can't teach in a university environment if you don't have a university education. I was in my mid-50s. The thought of going back to school in a classroom with 18-year-olds studying English 101 was overwhelming. I couldn't do it. I couldn't even get my mind to go there. What that meant is that I had to change the direction of my future life and my business, and I didn't know what that direction would be. 6 months of trying to sit down and redo my business plan and sort out a new future, I didn't make any progress because I couldn't figure out what that future was. My assessment stage went on and on and on. But I'm a great believer that when you are looking for opportunity, opportunity comes to you. Does that happen to any of the rest of you? We have to be open-minded. And one day I'm on the phone with an old friend and she's telling me she's taking an MBA program. And I said, well, how did you get into an MBA? You don't have a university bachelor degree either. And she said, oh, but I learned about an open university. I could hardly wait to hang up the phone and get on the internet. The door opened, the opportunity became available. I stepped through, and in April 2013, I received a master's in education. So again, assess, strategize, implement, and step back and look at what you learned. That was the hardest learning journey I've ever been on as far as education. But it was the most rewarding, and it taught my children some things too. If mom can go back to school, so can we. A few months ago, I was leaving a meeting, about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and my phone rang. The voice on the other end was a friend of mine saying, "I've just returned home from work and my wife has taken a bunch of pills. I can't wake her up." Instantly, I panicked. I said, "You have to hang up and phone 911. He hung up. He phoned me right back. He said, "She's kind of coming to. I think everything's going to be fine." I said, "When did she take the pills?" "I'm assessing." "I don't know." "How many did she take?" "I don't know." "You need to hang up and phone 911. You don't know how far those drugs are through her system." "I'm on the highway. I can't phone 911 or I have to pull over. I'm going to lose valuable time." I'm assessing and I'm strategizing. I turned my car around. I headed for their house. Fortunately, he phoned 911. When I got there, they were removing his wife from the house, putting her in the ambulance, and my friend standing there saying, "I don't know what to do. What do I do?" He was absolutely comatose. It was like he had taken the drugs as well. I said, "Get your shoes on, get your cell phone, get your wallet, and go. Get in that ambulance and I'll take care of everything." I spent the next couple of days with them. Everything has worked out for the best. As a matter of fact, it might have been the greatest gift of their life. A few days later, he said to me, "You might have noticed I didn't do well in that scenario." No shit. My apologies. Bleep, bleep, they're on the video. I said, "I didn't know that about you. I didn't know that in a crisis you don't do well." He said, "I never have." I said, "I didn't know that." I said, "Why did you phone me?" "Because you do well in a crisis." Assess, strategize, implement, evaluate. That conversation he and I had allowed me to evaluate our relationship going forward. I told you I live and work in High River. On June 20th, 2013, we became the national media for the largest natural disaster in Canada's history. What a challenge. We were all evacuated. When we got home, another 12, 15 days later, depending on what part of the community you lived in, we were all met with something we didn't expect. When people say to us, "Oh, you weren't impacted," or "Were you impacted?" We were all impacted, water or not water. Our whole community was turned upside down. When my husband and I returned home on July the 1st, we drove up, we came up to the front of our house, we could see the floodwater had gone up partly up our driveway. We thought, "Oh, thank goodness, we're good," until we unlocked the door. And the smell that 4 feet of sewage leaves behind is not pretty on a hot summer day. We assessed what we needed. Pardon me, I assessed what we needed because my husband was wandering around in a circle as a complete and utter zombie, not knowing what to do next, and had to go buy cigarettes. Of course, there wasn't anywhere to buy them in High River. So for the next month, maybe went on 6 months, I'm not sure, all he could do all day was smoke a cigarette. I realized it was up to me as I assessed the situation for our home, because it was up to us, each of us, and there's some others of us here in this room that were impacted. It was up to me to save our home and our home was our castle, our biggest investment. We weren't fighting the flood, we weren't fighting the sewage. We were actually, some of us, fighting the mold, which was a different science than I had learned about before. We became involved in our community, and I realized that I could play a leadership role. Again, you're always assessing lead or support. In some places, the roles, I played a support role, and some I played a lead role. And I secured a 2-year contract to work with the businesses of High River to help them get back on their feet. And I learned amazing things from those people. I learned a lot about resiliency. I also learned through all these challenges I faced in my life, there's nothing you can't throw at me that I can't handle, I think. Health and the future, when you get to be at my age, what's ahead doesn't look very pretty, but whatever, it's what's ahead, we can handle it. So assess the situation always. Strategize, implement, and evaluate. Those are the lessons of life. They will do you well in everything that you do. Always remember those 4 stages. This is a quote from my father. It's not what life does to us, it's what we do with what life gives us. Thank you.